Actually, see my table, I need to like move back a little bit, I think. This is Katie, the Shared Legacy CSA coach, and today we are doing a garlic tutorial. So you can see I am like swimming in garlic today. It smells like garlic in here. It smells really good. I'm just going to take a second to quick sign on using my phone. I'm doing this video in our CSA Facebook group. And it's a live video, so I want to be able to see if we have any questions as I kind of go through this. So garlic is actually one of my favorite things that we get in our box, if not my favorite thing overall. I think it has like the most medicinal properties. I always tell people when you hear, let food be thy medicine and medicine but be thy food, or really, I feel like we're talking about garlic and onions and leeks and everything from that family. So I'm really excited to do this garlic tutorial today. So here for the most part, what I have are what's called hardneck garlic. There are two varieties. We've got hardneck garlic and softneck garlic, and Shared Legacy grows hardneck garlic. So the difference is, you can see this hardneck variety actually has what looks like a hard neck or a stem coming out of it. It has cloves that grow around the stem, and there's this like hard neck in the middle. That is the type that a lot of times you will see at a farmer's market or in your CSA group, not as common from, let's say, like the grocery store. The soft neck variety a lot of times is what you see at the grocery store, and that is this guy right here. And this I actually was at my mom's house and asked her if I could take it as an example of what not to use. Not necessarily what not to use, but a hardneck variety is a little bit better, and we're going to kind of talk about why. So these are the two varieties, and I'm just going to kind of walk up here. So this is the hardneck one that we get from Shared Legacy, and it has these cloves that go around one by one around this center core. And this is the soft neck, and you can see that this yields kind of more cloves. It has not the hard neck, but more of like the paper thin surrounding that kind of twirls up in the center here. So this one kind of has cloves that grow in layers, you can see, versus the single cloves that are growing around the stem. So they're obviously both garlic, they're both good for you. Although the hardneck variety, when we talk about medicinal properties, is oftentimes a lot better. It also usually has a better garlic taste versus the soft neck. Unfortunately, it is a little bit more expensive, which is okay if you are looking for more medicinal benefits or a better taste. It has a stronger garlicky taste usually. It's more expensive for a variety of reasons. It doesn't yield the same amount. You can see you get a lot more cloves with the soft neck. I hear that it is also a little bit more labor intensive to grow, so I don't think per acre that this variety of garlic produces as much, but it tastes wonderful. I definitely love it, and I try to preserve as much of the hardneck variety so that way I'm not stuck with this guy at the store over the winter time. So let's talk a little bit about storage. You want to make sure that you store your garlic at room temperature or in a cooler, dry, dark place away from potatoes and onions. If you do that when it's cured like this, when it has this dry papery skin, it's going to be good for several months. If you are getting fresh garlic, so sometimes we get fresh garlic in the beginning of the CSA season in like June or July that does not have this thin papery skin, it is literally fresh. That type has to be kept refrigerated all the time. So this cured garlic, when you see this thin papery skin, cured garlic needs to be stored not in the refrigerator, at room temperature. So let's talk about some of the benefits of garlic, because I feel like that's why a lot of people get so excited about garlic, is because of something called allicin. And allicin is really like the medicinal compound, the phytonutrient that makes garlic so powerful. So when you hear about the benefits of garlic for your cardiovascular system, or anti-cancer, or to help with blood pressure. We're really talking about that allicin content. So allicin itself is not in this whole clove. There's allicin potential in these cloves. What happens is there's two compounds in a garlic clove that have the potential to react together and form that allicin. In order for that to happen, we have to activate an enzyme, also in the garlic clove, to make those two compounds kind of combined or combust together to have some allicin. So unfortunately, the enzyme that makes those compounds combine is actually heat sensitive. So we need to allow those compounds to work with that enzyme before we actually heat up the garlic. So if you've ever heard to press and rest your garlic, that is very true. We need to cut up this garlic and allow it to rest for a little while in order for it to reach its pure allicin potential. Let's say we slice up this garlic clove in a few minutes here. Whatever we're doing. If we chop up this garlic and we throw it right into a hot pan, we are destroying that enzyme that's going to create that allicin. So we have just missed out on that allicin potential. So we're no longer receiving the medicinal benefits of garlic like we probably thought we wanted to. Whereas if we chop it up and let it rest here for 10 minutes, we're going to allow that allicin potential to reach its prime, and then we can heat it up and do whatever we want to it, and it's not going to necessarily lose that allicin potential. So we want to try to let it rest. So with that said, the more chomping, the more oxygen exposure, the finer we mince this garlic, the more allicin it's probably going to have. So that is where this guy comes into play, this garlic press. And I like using garlic press for this reason, because I feel like it really helps get the garlic to its full allicin potential. I know Julia Child said that something like real people or real cooks have no reason to have a press in their kitchen, so she was definitely a fan of slicing or mincing your garlic by hand. But you can see mincing or pressing this garlic in this press really is going to expose most of that garlic clove to oxygen, and it's really going to allow that allicin potential to get as high as possible. So I'm a fan of pressing your garlic and letting it rest when you can to really allow that to happen. Alright, so for example, I just looked up a few things because I was curious, if we microwave garlic or if we heat it up and we're looking at that allicin. So if you heat up this garlic after we cut it up or chop it up without letting it rest, we lose 90% of the allicin. Whereas if we let it set for 10 minutes and then heat it up, we keep almost 100% of that allicin content. So it's really important to kind of keep that in mind. If you're cooking with garlic and you know you're going to chop it up or slice it up or chop it up or mince it, you probably want to do that first. Oh, good. So Jess from our group says that her garlic press is one of her favorite kitchen tools. I would totally agree. Press probably like $10 or $15 that I've ever spent. So definitely helping out your health if you allow it to press and rest first. All right, so we've got our soft neck, we've got our hard neck. The hard neck, like I said, is going to be medicinal-wise a little bit healthier for us. It's the closest to wild garlic that you will find. Garlic is also something that you really want to try to get organic if you can. It's something that's fairly dirty and contaminated with pesticides and some other not so good stuff when it's not organic. So most conventional garlic comes from China, and it's something that we want to try to avoid. So if you have to buy garlic from the store, you really do want to make sure it's organic. So this variety here, the hard neck, these are cured, so we've got this thin, papery skin. If we wanted to, we've got a few different ways that we can remove this papery skin before we go to cook with it. So sometimes it'll peel fairly easily off. Like this guy here, I didn't even have to cut and remove the bottom before I removed that skin to chop it up. Sometimes I'll also just cut off the bottom little stem portion there and then go ahead and peel off that skin usually is removed fairly easily. Gonna smell like so much garlic here. Alright, so you can remove it by hand like that. If you're trying to remove a lot of skins fairly quickly, you can use 2 stainless steel bowls, which work the best. I will say that this method is usually shown using the soft neck variety of garlic, not necessarily this hard neck variety. But you can use 2 stainless steel bowls to kind of remove those papery skins, or 2 cups, which I'm going to use today because I couldn't find 2 stainless steel bowls. And you can shake it, and it will loosen up. It will loosen up the skins, if not remove them completely. So you can see this guy here just totally remove that skin. That was pretty easy. There's a few pieces left on there, but it's not bad. So you can use that method if you want. For the ones that it didn't remove, it kind of loosens it up a little bit. The other option came off pretty easily. The other option is to use your chef's knife. Again, this method is usually used with the soft neck because there's a flatter side, but you can kind of crush it a little bit, and that will loosen up the skin and also help that clove to slide right out. So a few different methods to kind of help get that annoying paper skin off. Alright, so how do we use garlic? A lot of times it's eaten raw. You might puree a little bit of raw in a pesto or in a hummus, or make a salad dressing using raw garlic. Some people say that using raw garlic causes a little bit of digestive issues. If you roast or cook or heat up the garlic, that component is kind of taken away. So just keep that in mind. If you have someone in your family that thinks they don't tolerate garlic, you can always roast it or cook it first. Alright, so let's I guess talk about that first. Let's talk about roasting it. So roasting garlic, if we wanted to roast garlic, that is a really delicious way to enjoy the flavor of garlic. We are going to remove a little bit of the papery skin. And roasted garlic, actually, some people just like to eat by itself, but it's also really good in dressings or on proteins or in salads or spread on bread. My husband actually came in here because I have some roasted garlic cooking, and he thought that I made garlic bread, which I most definitely did not. I'll try to cut through that a little bit, but it's because I have this roasted garlic cooking. So when you want to roast garlic, you actually can chop off about maybe like 1/4 of an inch or so of an entire piece of garlic. So you're going to kind of leave the outer skin there, and you are going to place it in a little bit of foil. Preheat your oven to 400, and you are just going to pour probably about a teaspoon of olive oil over the top, just a little bit. And you're going to seal up the foil, and you are going to let this cook or roast at 400 for probably 30 or 35 minutes. So I like to actually use, move my table again. I like to use a muffin tin to kind of hold this in place. And I would just set it in there and let it cook for 30-35 minutes at 400, and you will get a wonderfully soft roasted garlic clove. So for those of you that haven't had roasted garlic, it tastes a lot different than raw garlic. If you get nervous about raw garlic or smelling like, garlic, I would recommend trying roasted. So you can see, ooh, this guy is a little hot. I'm going to show you how soft this is. You get this really nice, soft, caramelized garlic clove. So this is kind of a showstopper. Smells so good. This is kind of a showstopper. You could spread this on bread. You could add this to dips. You could add it to hummus or dressing. it definitely has a much milder, like caramelized flavor compared to a raw garlic. It's also going to be a little bit easier on the gut, like I said, if you feel like you don't tolerate raw garlic. If you're using roasted garlic in place of raw garlic in a recipe, you're going to probably want to use more. So if a recipe calls for just 1 or 2 cloves of raw garlic, you're probably going to want to use 3 or 4 roasted garlic cloves. We have that recipe for roasting garlic, or kind of those instructions, in our ebook, so we'll make sure to post our garlic ebook in the comments of this video. So roasting is pretty easy. You just throw it in the oven at 400, and it's going to take 30 to 35 minutes with a little bit of olive oil, and you could definitely serve that on top of some different breads or veggies or salads, or mix into hummus. The other option, if you wanted to roast some garlic, is to do it along with the meat that you're roasting. So you can roast garlic below your protein or alongside top of it, and then when your meat is done, you can actually use that roasted garlic kind of as like a condiment or a side to go along with the roasted meat, whether you spread it on the meat itself or even on bread. So that's a really great option to enjoy some good local organic garlic. The other thing that you can do is you can also let it marinate or cook in a little bit of olive oil to preserve it. So like I said, I'm a person, I like to stock up on all my good organic local garlic and enjoy it year-round, although it's only available to me for a short period of time, you know, in August and September. So I like to get a lot of it and then preserve it, and that way I can use it year-round. So if you wanted to marinate it in some oil, you would actually just take that papery skin off of your garlic cloves. I did this a little while ago ahead of time. You would add some olive oil to a pan so it covers however many garlic cloves you have in the pan. So you can see here, I've got a fairly decent amount of oil in here, and I have 4 cloves. So I put my 4 raw garlic cloves in this pan. I covered it with oil enough to cover the cloves. That's really important. And then I brought it to medium heat. I brought the oil to kind of a simmer. And then I eventually turned it down to low and let that cook for probably a half an hour. So that's another way to cook some garlic. And now I'm going to preserve it in this same oil. So I'm going to use this little mason jar here because I don't have a lot of it. I'm going to put these cloves in. And this is a really important step. You cannot just store the cloves in the jar. They have to be covered in oil to preserve it correctly, to prevent botulism and other not so good bacteria from forming. So I can store this in my refrigerator now and use this just like I would roasted garlic, whether it's in dressings or on proteins or on bread. I can store this in my refrigerator for several months. So that's a good way to preserve some cooked garlic. The rest of this oil that I have in here smells amazing. Smells like roasted garlic. I can use this as a cooking oil or as a dipping oil or in a salad dressing. So I think I might actually repurpose this and use it in a salad dressing that I'm going to make today. I was going to use fresh olive oil, but I think I might use that. Alright, so we've got roasting, we've got cooking it in some oil to preserve it. The third way that you can preserve garlic to enjoy it year-round is actually to freeze it. And it's really easy to freeze garlic. So if you find it on sale or find garlic that you like, you should definitely consider figuring out a way to preserve it. So easiest way is to take these whole cloves like this and actually just throw them in a jar or in a bag and freeze them. So I will show you here in my freezer. I've just got these whole peeled garlic cloves. These only take a few minutes to thaw out. You can also run them under some warm water to use them all the time. So that's how I preserve it if I'm in a hurry when I go to preserve it and I just want to throw it in the freezer. The other thing to do, and actually my favorite thing to do, is to press the garlic. And I'm actually going to pause for a second. Is press the garlic and mix it with a little bit of coconut oil. That's the oil that I tend to actually cook with the most. So I've got a few cloves of pressed garlic in here, and I'm going to add a little bit of coconut oil. Now you could use butter, you could use lard, you could use whatever oil technically that you cook with. And I'm going to mix these cloves with some coconut oil. I wonder how long I'm going to smell like garlic after this. I feel like I've got garlic everywhere in my kitchen right now. Alright, so I've got this coconut oil and minced garlic just mixed up into kind of one compound here. And then I am going to take it and put it into little, I don't know, you could do a variety of sizes, like dime or quarter size dollops here, some larger. But I am going to freeze it this way. So I'm doing it in whatever portions I might tend to use garlic, minced garlic when I'm cooking. I'm going to let this rest just like this before I actually freeze it to allow it to reach its full potential. And so I will let this freeze, the oil and the minced garlic mixture, freeze like this, and then once it's frozen, I'm going to remove these. I'm going to put them in a little Ziploc bag in my freezer or in a mason jar. And that way, when I'm in a rush and I need some minced garlic, 8 months from now, I can just grab some already minced in an oil mixture, throw it in a pan, and get cooking. So really easy way to kind of preserve some garlic and really save yourself some time eventually in the kitchen. I'm going to quick rinse off my hands. The other popular thing to do with garlic is to make a salad dressing. So I figured we would make a super basic salad dressing today. We actually have the recipe in our ebook that we're going to give to you. So this salad dressing is going to be a little extra garlicky because I'm going to use this olive oil that I have that I cooked that garlic in. So this is going to use some sort of standard food processor or a blender, and we're going to use about a half a cup of olive oil. And I might have, I have more than half a cup in here, so I'm going to use that. And then we're going to use about 3 tablespoons of some sort of vinegar of choice. I have like a dark balsamic here. Whenever you're making a dressing, you can really just kind of taste it at the end and see if you need to add more of anything. So it's kind of going to depend on your taste. We're going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of Dijon mustard. So probably about a teaspoon of mustard, maybe a little bit more. And then 1 clove of minced garlic, or you could use like 3 or 4 cloves of roasted garlic. So different options there. Cut this in half. Since I'm using raw and since I'm using Shared Legacy Farms garlic, I'm just going to use 1 because it tends to have the strong garlicky taste. And then a little bit of honey to kind of take the edge off. Maybe about a tablespoon. I'll probably use a little bit less because I don't like to use too much sweetener in my foods. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and blend this up. And you will see how this nice creamy vinaigrette. Smells really good. This is going to be best used or enjoyed if I use it tonight, like today, but I can refrigerate it and use it for up to a week. So if you wanted to make a dressing ahead of time, you could definitely do that, but it's going to be best enjoyed when it's the freshest. And again, you could use raw garlic or you could use a little bit more of roasted garlic. So we've got roasting, we've got marinating, we've got freezing. Always keep in mind it's also just good to add it to your foods in general, just trying to allow it to meet that allicin potential first. You just want to be cautious when you're cooking with garlic to not burn it. So a lot of times people tend to add garlic way too soon in their cooking, whereas a lot of times even if the recipe tells you to add it at the beginning, it's going to be good to wait until maybe midway through the recipe to actually add that garlic to prevent it from burning, or turn down the heat a little bit so it doesn't get too burnt. I do want to share, as we're kind of like finishing up, something that I do in the wintertime for my for myself and for my family that they probably don't enjoy, but it's kind of like my flu fighter. So I'm a big fan of a little bit of raw local honey, which I know a lot of our CSA members also enjoy. I am kind of an anti-sugar person. I don't use a lot of sugar, but raw local honey does have some medicinal properties. And like I said, garlic to me is like the superfood. So I forgot to press an extra clove and let it rest, like we talked about. But kind of like a once a week or maybe twice a week flu and cold fighter I will do for my family and I, or if we feel like we're coming down with something, is to mince some of a clove of garlic, let it rest for 10 minutes. Remember, if I were to eat this right now, it's not going to do me much good. I really want to allow it to rest. And we've got a few options. So I will tend to just add a little bit of my local honey to this garlic, and I will eat this right off the spoon. If that sounds terrible to you, and I'm going to tell you it's really not that bad, you can add a little bit of cinnamon to it, or a little bit of lemon juice. But allowing this minced garlic to reach its full allicin potential is really a great overall immune system booster, especially in addition with the raw local honey. So I'm going to let this rest, and then I promise you I'm going to end up eating it because there's no way I'm going to let this go to waste. This is like a good little like immune system booster right here that I have. So that is it for today's garlic tutorial, and I am covered in garlic and I smell like garlic and everything here smells like garlic. But thank you for joining us, and make sure that you check back for our garlic ebook in the comments. This is Katie, your Shared Legacy Farms CSA coach, and thank you so much for joining us for this garlic tutorial. Have a great day.